Joining us now for analysis on this current moment and what could be in store for the future is Rogan O'Handley, a lawyer, journalist, and conservative influencer who you may know by his social media handle, DC Drano. So, Ryan, I want to look at this, where we are in this moment right now. We know that the president is fighting these court battles out. We know that the Republican Party is coming out in support for a large part, but some are also preparing for the event that he does not successfully pull off these legal challenges. So what's your response to not only the president's handling of this moment, but the Republican Party more broadly?
I'm very proud of the president in how he's taken a very strong stand. A lot of his supporters were looking for him to lead in this situation, and he has been very, aggressive in asserting these allegations of fraud. Retweeting these clips of the evidence and the evidentiary hearings, calling into the evidentiary hearings. He's fighting, and so I know a lot of his supporters are fighting right behind him. When it comes to his support, I think it's been lackluster from GOP elected officials, especially Governors Kemp and Arizona Governor Ducey. And I would say actions speak a lot louder than words. Kemp has been very quiet, has not allowed signature audits, and Governor Ducey in Arizona literally certified the election results in the middle of the evidentiary hearings about all the fraud in those states. So that to me is very suspicious, but I do want to give a shout out to Matt Gaetz, Governor DeSantis, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Greene, Madison Cawthorn. They have been very outspoken, leaders in fighting this fraud.
And, Rogan, building on that point, too, those are all, I would say, kind of the new wave of the Republican Party. Everybody you just named. So, I mean, a lot of them are freshman lawmakers, but people like Matt Gaetz is certainly someone who is part of the more Trumpian wing of the Republican Party as compared to the more, I would say, people who have been in politics for a long time, just kind of follow whatever prolongs their political career. Are you seeing a disconnect between the Republican base, the people who come out and vote, and the people who have traditionally run the party, people like a Lindsey Graham or a Mitch McConnell, for example? Are you seeing a disconnect?
Yes, and this goes out to, no one in particular that you just listed, but it's a difference between winners and losers. Trumpian GOP wins. Romney GOP loses. Matt Gaetz wins. Ron DeSantis wins. Jeff Flake, Bob Corker, they lose. So these are the types of, splits that were necessary to happen. This is an awakening of sorts on the right in terms of, getting down to what the GOP base actually wants. They want America first. They want secure borders. They want law and order. They want low taxes, and they want American values, to not be afraid to stand up, celebrate what makes America great, and just common sense, speaking. Trump has gotten rid of political correctness largely. It's largely defeated compared to where it was when he first started. So, we still have a lot of challenges ahead of us, but the Trumpian method of GOP politics, if people are smart and they want Trump's base to vote for them, that's where they'll head.
I think you're right, because, for example, I don't see too many people going back to the Mitt Romneys of the world or anything like that, or trying to return to where the Republican Party was 10 years ago, for example, because the Republican Party has come a long way under President Trump, and he's a man who now supports something like a 90% approval rating among the members who make up the party. So what do you think led to this transition? Why do you think the Republican Party was so willing to change, and they saw President Trump as the man to do it?
I think President Trump just had enough of, the fraud he was seeing and the lack of connection between GOP leadership and the GOP base that had developed over years. Globalism affects both sides of the aisle, and we have plenty of globalists on our side, and we're trying to weed them out. But, President Trump, I think, just has an incredible set of instincts. He, as much as he is a billionaire and living the most lavish, successful lifestyle, he gets the common person. He can go down to his construction sites and mingle with, the construction workers and the hotel employees, and he connects with them. And frankly, I see a lot of that in Donald Trump Jr. as well, and all of the Trump family. Eric is great. They're all great. So it's just part of who they are as a family, which I think is a very stark contrast to what we're seeing with the Biden family, which only seems to want to sell out America, avoid dealing with the American people, and just put money in their pockets.
And I think it comes back to the concept of authenticity. I mean, love him or hate him, you knew who President Trump was. I think that Donald Trump Jr. shares that very same quality. I mean, love or hate what he says, he's speaking what he believes. And I don't think that's often what we get with our politicians. Even right now, when it comes to Joe Biden, a lot of people are looking at the potential cabinet that he's putting together and saying, you know, these are people that may not necessarily agree with what Joe Biden has an outlook of the world with. And these are people in the past who do play into that globalist type of ideology that you were just explaining right there. So when we're looking at the team that the Biden team is putting together, are you fearful of what that potential administration could look like?
It's a reversion right back to the Obama playbook. It's globalism. It's these well-educated, good sounding type people, not to us, but to the regular American people. They might sound like they're doing okay, but in the end, they're just selling out America. They're screwing us over. They're opening up our borders. They're destroying our culture. They're bowing down to China. There's no greater threat to our national security than China. And these are the types of people that think China isn't a threat and that China growing is a good thing. That's not true. That is just flat out a lie. And, these people, they have teleprompters. They have very highly paid consultants. And it's going to be a very stark contrast to what we saw over this past 4 years, and what I think we'll see in the next 4 years as well is a regular talking politician. He doesn't need a teleprompter. He doesn't need notes. He's going to tell you the truth. He's going to tell you what he really feels. And I think, frankly, judging by Trump getting over 10 million more votes this time around, that's what the American people want to see.
Yeah, and we were talking about a disconnect. Perhaps there is no bigger disconnect than the Democratic Party saying, well, China's an ally. They're not going to eat our lunch, as Joe Biden says, because, you look at polls, you talk to the average American, they are no fans of China. They know exactly what NAFTA did to productivity. They know exactly where the coronavirus started. They know exactly what the cover-up was. China is not a friend to the United States on so many different levels. And for politicians to say otherwise, the American people do see through that. So I think you're right to bring that up and move that contrast against what President Trump has been doing in regard to China as well. But Rogan O'Handley, it's always a pleasure having you on the show tonight. I really appreciate your analysis on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.